Hello, lovelies, and welcome back to the Mama and a Manse podcast. I am Christy, and you can find me on Instagram as Mama and a Manse. There is also a Ravelry group for the Mama and a Manse podcast. You can come over there and introduce yourself, ask any questions that you have for me, or if there's any sort of topics that you would like to hear about on the podcast, you can let me know. I'm trying a new setup this week from last week, and it is really hard to remember to look at the side of my phone instead of over the top of the computer screen, but I think the sound and picture quality seems to be better this way, so I'm going to try this out and see how it goes. On Ravelry, I am at this time still listed as Mrs. Michael Hill instead of Mama and a Manse. There's been some sort of bug with Ravelry, and it says it's changed, but it didn't change, and it's in the process of being changed. That was a very strange experience for me. Ravelry is such an amazing site. It is probably the best search engine that I've ever used. I consider it better than Google. Granted, it's not for everything in the world, but everything that I need yarn-wise is on there, and so when something actually goes wrong with it, it's very shocking. And I've been on Ravelry since 2009, and this is the first time I ever had to go and look for the help area and get on the chat and email people and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little snafu bug thing, but hopefully will be fixed really soon and is not indicative of Ravelry in general, in case you are not somebody who is very familiar with that. And since I just stuck my hand up next to my face, we'll go ahead and talk about that. I got my split off today. It's pretty sore. Just movement in general. I can do this fine, but like this doesn't feel very good. I was able to take a proper shower today and wash my hair for real. That was so much better than trying to scrub through a grocery bag. But I have these nice little steri strips still on there. Stitches are out, and these will be off in about a week. I am cleared to begin knitting again. I'm super excited about that. The doctor said that I'm not supposed to do like weight bearing at all, and for still the whole 6 weeks, so another 4 weeks. And then he said that I should not lift weights or do push-ups, like he thinks I'm somebody who exercises, and he obviously does not know me. Because I laughed a little bit when he said that. Okay, so let's just get right into it. I was going to try to share some favorite finished objects, especially right now when I don't really have anything finished immediate, like from this week. And my idea was to show you the little get up that I made for my baby daughter, Violet, for her baptism. And I'm actually wearing the blanket. It's the Hansel full hat from Gudrun Johnson. But the dress, which was the Lizzie dress from Tega Hillard, has been eaten by the house. I looked everywhere for it, and I cannot find it. To be fair, my house has not been completely clean since like 2 or 3 kids ago, but when it shows up, then I will show it to you. But this is the full hap. I don't know how much of it I can get in here. So we use this as a blanket to put around her during her baptism. And can't really show the entire thing. But also, I don't necessarily like use it as a blanket right now for her to lay around on, because she seems to be a little bit sensitive to wool. I've noticed that a couple times when I've worn something like a scarf or shawl or something around and have been holding her where her face is up against it. She seems to get some red splotches on her head or on her face, and so this is out of Knit Picks palette. It's 100% Peruvian wool, and so we haven't just been like leaving this directly on her, and so I'm using it as almost kind of like a blanket shawl. It's really big and cozy. I wore this out today and didn't wear a coat. It was super windy because it's Nebraska, and that's pretty much what it always is. And I was perfectly comfortable. It was pretty chilly too, so, and it keeps you nice and warm. I may have to lose it partway through because I'm also sitting next to a very hot vent. Even though it's closed, it's still putting out tons of heat. If anybody's interested in the colorways, I can get that, but it's on my project pages. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move into whips. First off, I was going to share my test knit that I'm doing for Melissa Kimmerer, and she is Melissa K Designs on Instagram. No. Yes. And Melissa Kimmerer on Ravelry. And that was something that I had said I would do the test knit, and then found out I was having surgery. So when she said, yeah, we're going to do this, then I was like, well, I can start it and get a lot done, and try to get most of the knitting done, and then finish it after I have to take like a 2-week break. And she was good with that. I really thought that I would have enough time, and so I went ahead and did the test knit. I made a little video with my daughter so that she could go ahead and go to bed. The daughter that it's made for. And I will try to insert that here. I think I sort of figured out how to do some editing stuff. Not very well. I have still no idea how to like put music in or where you get music that you can use, but I do apologize. The video with Elizabeth, there was a yarn bag sitting here, and the kittens were jumping on it, and so there's quite a bit of crinkling in it. I didn't really notice it because our house is always loud, and little sounds like that don't usually like even register with me, but when I watched it back, it did I could hear like the crinkling of the plastic.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth is my very adorable and intelligent little model today. She is wearing my test knit for Melissa Kimmerer, and it is Tiny Angel in My Pocket. Can you stand up? So this is in Fabulous Fibers. Marianne, the colorway is Not So Shy Violet, and it is, just, can you back up a little bit? There we go, now I can see all of you. I'm just a little bit a ways from ending that, and then going to the sleeves, and then there'll be a little pocket with, she's chosen the angel to be in her pocket, so that's what she's gonna have. And this is something that I put on hold while I was injured from my surgery to remove the cyst, and I just will be putting this back on the needles and getting it finished up really quick. Also, Lizzie wanted you to know that she's wearing lip gloss. You say bye?
Bye.
So that is my first whip, and I am excited that now I can put it back on the needles and get going on that. I think that even if I have to take it slower, I think that I could probably get to the bottom of it in 2 days, and maybe each sleeve in 2 days, and so that's like 6 days. So I'm not too worried about that at all. And then the pocket and the duplicate stitch shouldn't take long at all, less than a day. I don't think knitting is going to bother me too much because it's such a tiny movement with my wrist that I don't think that that's gonna hurt. It's more like the big bending like this, and just, I guess I'll see. I'm a little bit scared, but mostly excited. Because I can live again. Okay, so my other actual whip from this week is in this bag. It is another one from Beach Dreams Bags on Etsy and SL Sliders on Instagram. The only bad thing about getting bags from her is that every time you buy one, then like right afterwards she puts another one up that you like super love, and so then you want more. I have a lot of bags from her. I think actually that pretty much all my bags are from her. So I did continue to make little pinwheel blocks. This is my second one. Please excuse all of the yarn barf. I usually manage my yarns a little bit better than this, but because of the mobility issues with my wrist, I didn't do a very good job and they're all over the place. So, let's see here. This is a Dream in Color Jilly that I am designing with right now. And I believe this color is Cloudborn that I made my Ashburn shawl out of. This white is the Cascade Heritage sock that my Kirsten sweater is out of, or the Windswept sweater. This is Fabulous Fibers Mad Hatter that I did a test knit out of for Under the Willow. This is also Cloudborn out of my Ashburn shawl. This one is a Fabulous Fibers that I got like a really long time ago, like 4 years ago. And I made the Cross of Christ scarf with that one. That might be one I should show you. It's pretty cool. And I just finished it this past Easter and wore it. And then I didn't have any more superwash wool fingering, and so I just like stole some yarn out of 2 Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering skeins that I haven't made anything with, but I was like, I'm not gonna miss like 5 grams. So that's what these 2 are. And I was going to pose a question for you guys. If anybody knows, if you are making like one of these cozy memories or pinwheel scrap blankets or whatever, I'm wondering how you decide which scraps you're going to put in it. So all of these are superwash. I decided not to put anything that's not superwash into it. For instance, the yarns from these, from this, it's not superwash, and so I didn't put it in there because I wanted to be able to at least like put it in the washing machine. But I didn't know about like things that are not wool but are machine washable, like if a cotton or linen. A lot of the baby dresses that I made for Violet before she was born were like a linen, they were Lindy chain from Knit Picks. And so of course they can be washed, but I didn't know if that's like a no-no to put in this blanket. So if anybody has any advice, obviously I can do whatever I want, but I was just kind of wondering what other people do, because I do have quite a few scraps because I made her like 3 dresses, and then I made myself a couple of shirts and stuff this summer as well, and I didn't know if those scraps could go in there. Okay, so then the other thing, I have another one of those, and okay, so I'm doing this row 1, that looks backwards, I hope it's not for you guys, the row 1 like yarn club thing, and so you get these little minis, and each month it's from a different dyer. So for the next block, these are all from my first month doing that. So these are all Twisted Owl was the dyer that month. So there's all kinds of speckledy goodness. So that's block 3. And then this is my little wee block. I was gonna try to do some more on it, but then my wrist actually was bothering me more this week. Whoops, there we go. And these are still Twisted Owl. It was actually bothering me more this week than it did the first week. And I don't know if it's because it kind of felt better and so I wasn't babying it as much and so I was like tweaking it on stuff. But also my left hand, the way that I was knitting, I was really like, had kind of like a, I don't know, like a bird hand going on, trying to knit with my left hand, and it was starting to hurt a little bit, so I stopped and waited for my doctor's appointment. Okay. So last week I had talked a little bit about the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted hashtag on Ravelry that is hosted by Tega Hillard, and I talked a little bit about it when I was talking about stocking and then didn't tell you why that had anything to do with what patterns I was stocking or yarns. Well, I actually had 5 patterns gifted to me from that, and they were the Aventina scarf by Laura Nelkin, Vanilla is the New Black sock by Anna Fletcher, I think that's how you say your name, the Comfort Fade Cardi by Andrea Mowry, the Icy Spring sweater by Joji Locatelli, and Irish Coffee by Thea Coleman. So I just thought I would share that those are all things that you may see coming up pretty soon. The Irish Coffee I've already bought yarn for. Yeah, I have a lot of sweaters coming up. And then I will also add a little bit to that later as well. So for today's yarn porn segment, I am going to show you some yarns that I bought at a pop-up. I don't know, they just called it a pop-up. At Imagine It Yarn Shop in Omaha. That's my local yarn shop. It's not super local, it's like an hour away. But the Prairie Girls had a pop-up there. And so I bought a lot of yarn. This is back in October. And so I thought I would share that with you. Okay, so Danny was selling yarn and Susie was selling her patterns. And the printouts that I have are in black and white, so I don't know how well you will see this. But this is her Susie's most recent big design. And it is, there is a shadow on it. It's really hard to see in a picture, and even she was saying that it was hard to really, to get pictures of it, but it is amazing in person. It is designed to look like a waterfall that she saw on vacation. So that's the Rough Lock Falls shawl. And I decided to do it out of Hinky Punk. So this is Danny's yarn, One Twisted Tree. I'm getting a shadow from my phone. That's lovely. And this is the Lavish base. So it's like a sport DK. But it is purple and gray, so it's perfect in every way. So basically, because Rough Lock Falls shawl is really hard for me to say, it's going to be my Prairie Girl shawl because it's Prairie Girl yarn, Prairie Girl pattern. Yeah. Okay, and then the other shawl that I was going to make, let's see here, is her Hellebore shawl. Let me make sure that I'm saying that right. see it a little bit. Sorry, I'm not good at this. And I'm making that out of Rare Woman Claire, which is also lavish. And it's this really deep teal. Okay, it adjusted a little bit. And actually this shawl, because of its shape, I don't have any that are the like crescent, and it wasn't one that I was like, oh, I have to see that shawl when I go. I was really, really interested in the Rufflock Falls shawl. Thanks, Susie, for naming it that. And I tried it on and I absolutely loved it. Just like the way that it laid, like I super, super love that shape. And so it's really got me thinking about trying to do a design in that shape. I never really thought that that would be something that I would really particularly have a super care for, but I really loved the way it looked. It looked really good on me. I don't say that a lot. Okay, so then I also got, these are all her prime base, which is Sock, and this one is Night Bus Escape. Here, if I put it all the way in the shadow, it kind of changes it. Whenever I put my hands up there, I'm always like worried there's like something disgusting under my fingernails. And this is Take the Black. It's very tonal. Danny's yarn is amazingly tonal and fantastic. This one is Mrs. Fisher's Pearl Handled Pistol. So it's kind of like the Hinky Punk, but the purple is not as mixed in and it's brighter. So see, this one is the Hinky Punk and this is the Pearl Handled Pistol. So you can kind of see the difference. And this is the Acid Peacock. It's one of my favorite colors of everything. I just love it. And then I think I said last week that I'm not like a super orange person because but this, I just loved it. It's sparkly. You can see it a little bit. But even if it's just like like heels and toes and stuff, I could not get this. It was just such a beautiful color, and I don't normally go for any kind of fire colors. You can obviously tell all of the yarns that I just showed you are like grays and cools. Sorry, and this is called Soul of the TARDIS. Oopsie. Sorry, there was not an earthquake in Nebraska. I just kicked the pillow that was too close to the tripod. I also got a sock blank from her, and I have never knitted with a sock blank before, but I did see one of my friends that got, not this exact one, but the same colorway. This is called the Sarcastic Unicorn, and she had wound it up so it would be a little less like kinky. Knitting with it. That's what she said. Sorry, I can't be appropriate. And it looked so pretty. You know, the whites just really set off all the rainbow colors, and I just loved it. So I'm looking forward to that. And all of that is pretty much sock, unless I find a shawl that I want to stick one of them in. And then the other thing that I actually picked it up at the pop-up, but I had it on reserve from before, is the Pagoda colorway. And that is this gorgeous baby. And it is sparkly. I I'm not really sure if you can see the sparklies. My lamp's gonna have to be in a different spot. It's making a shadow. And then I got this mini. Okay, and I Love Potion 9.2. I was like, I can't remember what it was, but now I do. I got this mini so that I could do heels, toes, and maybe cuffs with it too. And I was gonna make myself some Christmas socks, but I didn't feel like it was like so Christmassy that I couldn't wear them all the time. But I thought they would be gorgeous. And I think that I'm gonna do Hermione's Everyday Sock. I've never done that, and that seems like something everybody has to do at least once. And so I'm gonna try that. And plus my oldest daughter is like super obsessed with Harry Potter, so I thought she would think it was fun too. And because I'm so in love with this color, I actually, one of my wishes that I granted, the lady was from the UK and she was wanting green yarn. I'm like, how do you feel about sparkly and with like pinks and purples in it? She's like, oh, that sounds fantastic. So I actually sent her a skein of this to get her yarn wish granted. I thought that was fun. It's a dyer local to me and it's like my favorite. I love it. Oh, and I was also going to show you, I got these cute little tins from her as well. Her little emblem and knit on them. And a sock sack, which I have not filled out yet, but most of the things will get checked. Yeah, I've done almost everything except DPNs. I'm not a DPN fan. Yeah. Okay. So that was all of the yarn porn for today. And so in my stocking section, mostly what I have kind of coming up, what I'm looking at a lot, are actually some of my own designs. I don't know how well that's gonna go, but I thought that I would show you one of the yarns that I'm designing with. I guess you did see in the block, but here's my insane swatch, so I can swatch it in the round. Whatever. But actually what happened with this is I had decided to like buy nice yarn and make all of my kids some hats, and then maybe either socks or mittens or something to go with it, because you know I hadn't really made some nice things for my kids before. And so I did a pattern search, had the kids help me pick out, like for the girls, what they wanted for their hat. And I actually bought a pattern for it. It was Field of Wildflowers from Joji Locatelli. And it's a gorgeous hat. And I don't know how I did it. It's another one of those like crazy things like I was talking about with my dad shawl last week. It was for worsted weight, and that's fingering. And I tried to kind of finagle it so that it would work. I don't know why it showed up when I searched for fingering. There were some people who held it double, but with a variation. I actually wanted to be able to see the colors being pulled in the slip stitches and stuff, and holding it double, it would have just been a complete color riot. And so I didn't want to do that. So I'm actually designing a shawl, or designing a hat for Emma instead, because I didn't really find anything else that I liked. Stuff seemed like either really babyish or I don't know. Nothing struck my fancy. She's a very, I don't know if you would call her eccentric, but she really likes very loud, crazy things. So that's why she has that very crazy colored yarn. And the other thing I'm doing, designing, is a clergy stole for my husband. He requested one, and my plan had been to do that during October because it's Pastor Appreciation Month. So anybody who has a pastor next year, you can remember that October you're supposed to be like, thank you for being our pastor. But anyways, I did not get anywhere on it. In October, our baby does not take naps, like, ever, at all. So things don't get done around here very, very quickly. But anyways, so after talking to Mike a whole bunch and trying to figure out what he wanted, one of the things he wanted was the Presbyterian emblem, which is this. So what I've done is put that into a website that I actually found online. I'm blanking right now on what it's called. It's Stitch something. But you can like put a picture in it and tell it it's knitting, and as long as it's not more than like 100 stitches or something like that, it's free, and it'll give you like a chart, like a color work chart. And I think what I will probably do is intarsia, because I don't want to be carrying this red behind the white and the blue and things like that. And I've never done intarsia, but I don't think it will be that hard. It'll be trial and error. So he wanted that. And he wanted pointy ends. So I swatched, and I was thinking seed stitch would be the way to go. I'm not sure. There we go. Wait. I don't know which way the swatch goes. I don't remember. I think it's this way. Something like that. Anyway, so for the edges, I thought seed stitch would look nice since it has kind of a all over texture. It's not as separated as garter. And so I was trying to figure out how to do increases in the seed stitch, and I think I finally figured it out. And this is just like a swatch for trying it out. But that way the seed stitch will be on the bottom and then can continue up, and it can frame around the emblem. And then the other thing that he wanted was a cable. And so the emblem's going to be down at the bottom, and then there's going to be cables all along the parts that are like over his chest and probably down to like his thighs. And he picked a really braided cable out of one of my like pattern books, and this looks kind of crazy. This doesn't look exactly like it looks in the pattern book, and let me see if I can get it focused here again. So the area between the twists, the rows, number of rows is not as many. Like, I think you're doing like 4 and then 4 again in the rows. And I read somewhere, come back, there we go. I read somewhere that it's supposed to have the same amount of rows in between across as it has stitches that you're crossing. I have no idea if that's right or not, because it was one of those like weird internet forums. But this is like 8, and I think the crossing was only like 5 rows away from each other, and it was really tight. It was really hard to do. I don't think it looks very good. So that's gonna need to be changed, because this to me looks like a tangled mess, and I want it to look good. I want it to be something that he's going to be happy with and not be like, oh, that looks like crap. Not that he would, but... So those are things that are just kind of coming up. I don't know that a clergy stole is going to be very interesting to very many people. But I searched Ravelry and there were hardly anything like that at all. So it probably won't have the emblem on it because that's a registered trademark. And so I don't think that I can sell something that includes that. I don't really understand all of that part of it, but I'll find that out as well. And I'm making that out of this stuff right here. Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport. It's not super soft. It's kind of scratchy. Like the Wool of the Andes is not something that I would make for something that's going on skin. I think it's too scratchy. This has been washed and I think it's scratchy. But this will be over his robe or over a dress shirt, or dress or suit coat or whatever. He wears a robe a lot. So it's not actually going to touch his skin, so I think that this will be a pretty good yarn to use for that. I'm going to wash my red and my blue before I knit it, because I'm afraid that that will bleed onto the white, but stay tuned for that. Okay, so I was just going to talk a little bit about some knit-alongs that are coming up. I know the Prairie Girls are doing their loosey-goosey knit-along for sweaters. If there's anybody who hasn't made sweaters and you feel like you need support, I feel like it's kind of course knitting along, but it's kind of a sweater making support group. And so I kind of looked over what I'm gonna do, and I had a couple of patterns that I know I'm gonna want to do. So Light Rain, I showed you the yarn that I have for that last week. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. And the Puntia sweater, also by Hohi. I'm apparently in my Hohi phase. Oh, kitty, 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 no, don't do that. Sorry, the kitty was grabbing hold of the... Can you say hi? Say hi. This is Tiger. Hi, Tiger. It's still staring at the lamp. Don't play with the lamp. It'll fall off on you. And then also the Irish coffee I got from the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted. It is, I actually have received the yarn, but I saved that to talk about next week, because next week I think I'm going to do a kind of like a topic and talk about different kinds of yarns and where you can get them and the different levels of yarn, if that makes any sense. There are a couple people that I know in real life that are either newer knitters or just aren't as experienced with trying different things. And I feel like a lot of the podcasts that I watch, people, even if they are new knitters, are very professional. And so I wanted to kind of have something that would also be helpful for somebody who hasn't knitted everything under the sun. So that's kind of a topic for next week. There's the Cozy Up with the Stitchin' Sisters shawl knit along. Sorry, the kitties are going crazy behind the tripod. Sorry, my voice is very gravelly tonight. That's coming up in January. And also Imagine Landscapes is having a sweater knit along as well. And I think all of these, I'm sorry, the heat keeps kicking back on, and this is gonna felt to me if I don't take it off. It's getting so hot. So those are all three podcasts. The Prairie Girls and Imagine Landscapes are audio, and Cozy Up with the Stitchin' Sisters are on YouTube. Okay, so those are the knit-alongs that I'm going to be looking into here coming up. Also, I have received some giveaways for podcast listeners, and I'm like trying to figure out, so exciting, I guess what the best way is to do that, and I haven't decided that, but that'll be coming up as well, so look for that. And I think that's most of my notes. I was just going to share a little bit about Manse life this past week. So the day after I podcasted last week, I went to my appointment to get my splint off, and I showed up and they're like, your appointment is next week. And both my husband and I are positive that the surgery center told us that it was last week. And I got there, we went into town, and they're like, nope, it's next week. So I was pretty like bummed because they had originally told me 2 weeks, and so I was like, okay, I can handle it. And then the surgery center told me 1 week, and so I was super excited. You know, I'm like, oh, that's so much better than 2 weeks. I was totally all over that. And so then when we went and I didn't get it off, I was really sad. That was not the greatest day. So Wednesday, I tried to get in on the Hey Sister podcast yarn update, and I didn't figure there'd be another one for a while with the babies coming, and I was on there right at 7, and then at like 7:01 stuff was disappearing out of my cart. Everything, the stuff that I wanted was sold out, so that was crazy, and I did not get anything. We went to the senior center for their Thanksgiving lunch, and they always make me gluten-free food, and it's so funny because people that I don't know will come up to me, and I made this Halloween outfit for my baby, basically to keep her warm in the carrier for trick-or-treating. And so it's like this pumpkin, but they took a picture of me, it was in the newspaper, and there were little old ladies coming up to me and saying, oh, you were so cute in the newspaper. And that's fun. That's part of living in a small town and being the preacher's wife, is there's tons of people who know who you are, and you don't know who they are, but they like know so much about you. Don't ever yell at your kids because somebody will hear you. Okay, so then Thursday we had our Presbytery meeting. So Presbytery is the Presbyterian like regional governing board. I don't even know what you'd call it. So I had like the greater church meetings on Thursday and on Sunday. So that's taken up a lot of my time this past week. We got a new road next to our house. It opened on Friday, so that was super exciting. We might have been the first non-workers who drove by it, drove down it. So amazing. Yeah, this is how it is in little teeny tiny towns. Also, we were like sitting in the house, and I heard like this big like boom, and I thought it sounded like an explosion, and then another one happened, and my husband's like, no, it's nothing. I'm like, I think it was. So we were getting ready to leave the house, and I thought that I saw through the curtains were closed, and so I thought I saw like some flashing lights through the like a slit in the curtains, and so we looked, and there's like every fire truck and ambulance sitting down down our road. And at first we thought it was by one of our congregants' houses, so of course we were kind of freaked out. But it was clear down on the main street, which is 2 blocks away. really far away. And a semi exploded or caught fire or something, and it was hauling, I think, cows is what it ended up being. We could just tell that it was a livestock trailer. And like they had like 3 semis there trying to get animals off. And amazingly, even though we heard it and they had all these trucks there and had to put out the fire and all this kind of stuff, no cows were actually hurt in this explosion. I thought that was fun. I don't know. So basically we're getting ready for Thanksgiving here the day after tomorrow. And a lot of my family is coming. They don't know I have a podcast, so we are going through a period where our baby is not sleeping. She'll be 6 months old tomorrow, and the first time she slept through the night, she was 13 days old, and now she's decided that that's not for her. I don't know what's going on. She already has her 2 bottom teeth, and so I don't know if she could be getting the top teeth and that's bothering her, if it's the 6-month growth spurt or what's going on. But that's been Tiger. Sorry. So that's been kind of draining, especially when she doesn't sleep at all day long. And the other thing that's been going on around the Manse is that the kids have been discussing room changes. So our oldest is going to be 10 in February, and she's kind of wanting her own room, and we have a spare room which has basically just been shoved full of everything that doesn't fit somewhere else. And so she's really wanting to have that room as her room, and the baby is still in our room, and so it was time to move her out, but now she's not sleeping through the night, so I don't want to stick her in with a kid that, you know, needs to get up for school in the morning. So we've been having those discussions, and those are quite lively with a 5, 7, and 9-year-old. I don't really think the 6-month-old or the 2-year-old care, but I think that's pretty much all that I have for you today. Thank you for coming back. If you're a returning viewer, all like 16 of you. Truthfully, this was really hard for me to do. I detest public speaking. It is like the worst thing in the world to me. And I also feel very, very silly sitting around talking to the screen. But then I realized that I watch podcasts and listen to podcasts all the time, and I talk to the screen then too. So it's just like you're talking to your friends, you just can't see them. So, friend, have a happy Thanksgiving or shopping week, whatever you're up to this weekend or in the future, and I'll see you back next week. Ravelry and Instagram. You can also find a group for us on Ravelry.